There we go. He's recording it, so I'm just trying to give him a hard time.
Hand-drain for the camera.
Yeah. So this is, so you completed your indie project and you think you're done. I am Charlie Hawkins. I am the editor and creator and founder and whatever other title you want to put to a website called Alter Confusion. A little bit about myself real quick. Once upon a time, I was in the video game industry. That's what I wanted to do when I grew up. Was as soon as I sat in front of a computer, I will not tell you the first time I sat in front of a computer because that will make you feel real old. But as soon as I sat in front of it, that's what I wanted to do. And unfortunately, after a year and 8 months, I left the game industry, never returned, and I went to the dark side. I became a media press guy. I've created my own website, like I said. I started trying to review video games like the big boys and found out that I don't have the budget for it. So I started trying to focus more on indie video games, which is good. But at the same time, I found out, before COVID, I was going to a lot more Southeast conferences where I would interview indie creators because not all conferences have video games. And I found out that that's what I really like, is I like to interview and try to help individuals who are indie creators that are trying to get their product out. So I've interviewed authors, I've interviewed pencil and paper RPG guys. A couple of those guys have gone like, if you ever want to do a pencil and paper RPG and you want to do a Kickstarter, I cannot recommend enough. Check out Nerdburger Games. That dude has it down to a freaking science. The guy is amazing. His name is Craig Campbell, longtime fan of the show. So for me, I guess I don't want to say I'm piggybacking off all you creative types because I am creative. I can't keep my own creative stuff. I can't promote myself. I can help promote other people. That's my flaw. So I can write. I've written a third or 2/3 of books, and then I can't write anymore because if I start critiquing it, I will tear that fucker to the ground. But just out of curiosity, you said author / tabletop creator.
Yep.
Yes. Do you have an indie project category, or are you just interested in general?
All of the above.
All of the above.
So I like to draw.
Mm-hmm.
My drawings are a stylized realism.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do cartooning.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to write my own comic as far as writing, editing, and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've also got a tabletop RPG that's around 250 pages in the rule book so far. So,
everything. Yeah, okay. Do you have a specific genre?
So a bit of everything, but it's mostly focused on like writing, like script writing. The kind of other stuff, because technicals are kind of beyond me.
Right.
The other part of my whole partnership is the one who does everything else.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that y'all have probably ever figured this out, but I completely applaud you for your creations, and I wish you the best of luck. But one of the things that I see as the biggest pitfall is individuals who, I don't want to say that you get like weird tinted glasses, but when you put so much time and effort into a project, which I've done way too many times. I mean, hell, my Alter Confusion, I've been doing this since 2007, and it's gone through several iterations. I've done the AAA title reviews. I had a webcomic that I updated 3 times a week. I have now cached away deep in a dark vault 400 of those 3-panel webcomics that that I'm afraid to look at now. And it's not because the thing is when you create your creative baby, right? One of the biggest pitfalls that people fall into is that one, they think, my effort and my talent and my love alone will be the reason why this succeeds. if you are extremely lucky and you've won the lottery 5 times, then yeah, that's it. Otherwise, you have to have thick skin. And for my webcomic, I do not have thick. I never had thick skin. I doodle, and I accidentally put my thing out for critique and got absolutely bashed, and I threw it away. So if that's what happens when you show your baby to the world, then that's not the creative project you want to show to the world. You also have to understand that everybody is going to interpret your stuff different. There is a developer out there, I guess an infamous developer by the name of Jonathan Blow. He created a game called Braid. He also created a game called Witness, and then there's another game out there that I completely blank out on because the guy is a complete Looney Tune. He was under the impression that there is one way to play his game, and if you played it differently, he would find your YouTube video and write you a 3-page essay on why you're playing his game wrong and how to play it correctly. Or just uninstall the game and I will refund your money because you're wasting my time by playing my game wrong. When you have a creative project and you bring it, you put it out there, you've got to be willing to, to take those lumps. If you're working on a project solo, it has its pluses and minuses. You're technically only reporting to yourself, so you got to keep yourself on track. You can't let yourself slide, it's very easy to let yourself slide because you don't have someone breathing down your neck. But at the same time, I can't tell you how many creative projects started with a bunch of friends getting together to create something amazing, and by the end of it,
It's 5 people that walked away from it.
or it is something amazing, but they can't stand each other, and someone has to buy out everybody else in order to put it out onto market. There's a game out there called Fez. If you ever saw the Indie Game the Movie documentary, that was phenomenal, and it actually had Jonathan Blow, crazy dude, and the guy who created Fez, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but he literally, there was this huge deal. He had this huge booth at this big gaming convention, and it was the 11th hour before he knew if he was going to be legally able to show it to people, because his partner wouldn't sign the papers to basically revenue share, all that crap, whatever. But excuse me, my allergies are. It is difficult, and at the end of the day, when you finally have your project, you can, if it's a physical copy, if it's physical media where it's books or novellas or short stories or rule books for pencil and paper RPGs, or it's a miniature system, you've got the manufacturing cost if you want to go that route. There's so much more to think about that a lot of people. There are a lot of individuals out there who literally will create something amazing, and then once they're done with it. They're completely burnt out. There was a game system out there called the Ouya. It was kickstarted. It raised $1.8 million. It was this awesome thing. The box was also a software development kit, so anybody who wanted to get in to making, I would say it's basically smartphone-esque level games, but you could plug it into the TV, all that stuff. Phenomenal idea. Once the Kickstarter goal was reached and it ended and they raised a shit ton of money, they stopped. There was no marketing. There was no further support. They weren't going to conventions, which, by the way, I highly recommend. If you have something that you're trying to sell, go to conventions or go to local. If there's a writers group that there's a local chapter of writers group for Chattanooga or Atlanta, or if you're trying to make video games, there's something called the International Game Developer Association, the IGDA. There's chapters all over the U.S. and all over the world. If you're in the Georgia area, there's also something called the GGDA, which is the Georgia Game Developer Association, which is basically the same thing, but it's just about Georgia talent. go to those, I mean, there's meetup groups where people literally just bring their stuff and just trade. And at restaurants, once a month, you need to constantly be out there. There is an amazing example here at this convention of how you almost, the amount of effort he put in to basically make himself where he is today. The author, John, oh my God, John Hartness, he's down there, he's Falstaff Publishing. If you go into the dealer's room, he's like, literally, you see his big ass banner there. It's him and 3 other authors. That, if you are going the writer's route, yep, exactly. I highly recommend that you follow his strategy, because he literally, even after he's done with something, he is constantly bombarding people with it. Yes, is it annoying as hell? Yes. But the thing is, you're not going to forget about it. And it's one of my, like I said, it's one of my fatal flaws. I don't like to market. I don't like to try to build myself up. I want to build, I love building other people up. It feels weird to me to be like, hey, look at me. But if you're going to go solo, that's what you have to do. If that's not really your cup of tea, which it's not, there's a lot of people out there who do a lot of things correct and amazing. That does not mean they can do everything correct and amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Kickstarters fail because of the video. And the reason is that there's a group of individuals who's trying to make a phenomenal and amazing card game. And they decided that they had to have everyone who worked on it have screen time. Some people are not people persons. This one guy, who is actually the guy who's behind all the game mechanics, the smartest guy you've ever met, deer in the headlights in the video. And to be honest with you, that's why they didn't make their thing, because he came off as this unsure, very shy, didn't look knowledgeable at all. When, of course, having met him outside the video, I know that that's not the truth. But if you do not know how to do social media, get someone who knows how to do social media. If you need someone, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do it all by yourself. In fact, if you try to do it all yourself, you're probably not going to go very far. In that example, I really wish what they did is they just had him do like a voiceover of him showing how the game works, because just take a video of him showing how it works and then have him do a voiceover afterwards. It would have been great, because you could see how animated, how much passion he had as he's trying to show people the game. Instead of, yes, I made this game. It took a long time. I think that people really like it. Or I have my Bachelor's of Science is in Game Development and Design. There's a gentleman who is an absolute genius, but had no people skills whatsoever. If you asked him how he did something in that he programmed, he literally would say, I put my fingers to the keyboard, I typed, because I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and that's how it worked. That's his explanation. Probably not the person you want to be the figurehead for your project. With printed media, that gets... I found that starting off, from the friends that I've worked with, starting off print on demand is probably a better solution than having the warehouse of your books sitting around. However, it does kind of hamper you when you go to conventions if you don't have physical copies of your stuff there. So limited inventory if you're going to go that route. If you're doing a pencil and paper RPG, make sure that you can give a successful elevator pitch. do not, and I learned this the hard way, there is a gentleman, I cannot remember the name of his game, or maybe I'm just blocking it because I don't want, if he sees this video, I don't want him to get angry at me, because I had to cut the interview short. By short, I mean it was going 20 minutes long and he still hadn't told me anything about the game except for the mythos of the game. To this day, I still don't know like anything else about the fact that it was Egyptian mythology, which is very vague. But 20 minutes of him telling me about the inner workings of the way that he views Egyptian mythology is not a good interview. It does not do anything. It's okay if you're doing a pencil to paper RPG and you have and you want to test it. It is okay to literally just have pieces of paper. You don't have to have the final product because chances are it's probably going to change. You know, the layout of what the material is going to be for your grid, or what kind of if you're going to use pewter figurines or plastic figurines or insert whatever 3D printer figurines. And also if you have the physical inventory revision, it can be a pain in the ass, especially if you think that you have a final product and you have, I don't know, 30 copies of your book or comic book or whatever, and then someone goes, by the way, this is out of order. Page 1, it goes page 1, 2, 3, 16, 24, 7, 8, 9, 10. And because, I mean, yes, you should probably view that, but there are a lot, I mean, the thing is, and I'm guilty of it too, when you have a passion project, sometimes you don't see the flaws anymore. And this is why I say I went to the dark side when it comes to reviewing video games, and there's a lot of indie developers out there who really, they self-publish. They put it on Steam or the iTunes store or Google Play or whatever, because that's an easy way to get your digital stuff instead of getting a publisher or a media person. But at the same time, there are people out there who either have, if you have a game, please have different testers than you had at the beginning, because they will get used to your quirks and your flaws, and if you decide to reinvent the wheel and change a bunch of stuff, yeah, after 2 years of testing it, they're going to be totally fine with it. But then when you put someone who's never seen your system out there, and you say, it's really easy to pick up, just talk to these people who've been playing it for years, they're going to find it frustrating, they're not going to be able to handle it, and then you're going to be curious as to why no one wants to touch it. Or, I saved one guy from trying to make a big mistake. He thought that he had a really cool game. It turns out that he only showed it to his friends and family, and of course, friends and family are more likely to just give him a pat on the back, yay, good job, good job. I'm like, this game, it was a very, very, very bad slot machine game. First of all, slot machines aren't going to do it for me, but I was going to, I was going to review it for him. It was basically, it ended up looking like a starter level project for a programming language that is now defunct, is what it looked like. And I'm like, who told you that you're ready to sell this game? Because this is a great thing to show that you know how to program. That's it. But I'm sure that I could chit-chat, but let's get around the table here. Let's get some chit-chatting. So you basically, you have your toes into everything. Comics, books, all that stuff. So is there a product or a project that you're most passionate about or furthest along, or is it just kind of, you've got it in several different places?
I've got one book already. I would like to get it published.
Yeah.
Don't know where to start, don't know where to do anything, basically. I need to find an editor and just slap them in the face with it. Here.
Yeah, there are people who will do that are freelance editors, and I definitely recommend that you have, like I said, have someone with a fresh set of eyes look at whatever your creation is. Someone who is not biased to you. Also, make sure that, just like if you were to get a contractor for your house or you know, a mechanic to do something to your car, make sure that you actually do some homework about that person. Not just because there are people out there who literally will tell you whatever you want to hear as long as you pay them, and that's not going to do anything for you. That's, you know, you pay them money, and then you're surprised when your book has all the typos or has no proper flow, or your game is missing a huge chunk out of it. And so do your homework. For publishing, it depends. You can, well, after editing, if you get an editor, you can do self-publishing. You can do you can do the print on demand. You could do the Amazon has their Kindle stuff. I know that they just revised the payout for Kindle Unlimited when it comes to the difference between short stories and novellas. Apparently, if you are a short story writer, make your short stories into novellas now, if you're going to do through the Kindle Unlimited program, because the payout's much better. I don't know the exact scales because like I said, I have written several things, but I've never actually been able to get from start to finish. Because my problem is that I literally do probably the worst thing in the world, and that is put my fingers on the keyboard and just turn my brain off and then type the story. And then I have no idea what I wrote. Most of the time it actually turns out really well, but if I actually were to go back and read it, I would rip it apart to the point that it would just be unrecognizable and I'd have to start again. So, for pencil and paper, if you're doing print on demand, drive-through RPG is the way to go. That's the best one. It allows you to set your own price, and then it of course will tell you what the manufacturer cost is, and then allows you to see what your pay cut's going to be.
What was that called?
Drive-through RPG, and there is a I think Drive-through RPG, they might have all combined into that one website, but there used to be, the same company used to have like a comic book on demand version of Drive-through RPG, and that's actually where the one copy of my first 200 episodes of the Ultra Confusion webcomic was printed, which I have on my bookshelf. But
that's a good point.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me.
Yeah, go for it.
So, you know, for something like books and games and everything, it's a saturated market, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of games out there you can grab.
Oh yeah.
So if you throw like a price on top of it, you know, that itself is like a gate to anyone playing it.
Right.
So if you really want to capture the market, you almost have to keep as few gates as possible if you really want to like put yourself out there. So to me, it seems like the best plan of action is to make your game free and hope that it catches on enough to where you can start doing something with it.
So that could go one of two ways. You can, if you go the route of free, then you better have a bunch of supplementals in the wings that are as polished, if not more polished, than that free thing. Because if you have that, basically the gateway drug of your game or your book, you know, the first 2 or 3 chapters, or the first, for video games, a lot of indie developers will go with an episodic type of deal, so that they get a little bit of money at a time, and they'll give you the first chapter for free. There's a perfect example. There is an indie game called Revision. It is a point-and-click adventure. The first chapter is free. It is an hour and 25 minutes long.
Is that like Myst used to be?
No. The company that actually made episodic content, like the hot thing was Telltale Games, but then they got way over the head and tried to grab too many IPs, and they sunk themselves. And now they're kind of back because they just released Telltale. What's it called? It's based off of the sci-fi TV series The Expanse. It's called The Expanse: A Telltale Adventure or something. But if you go that route, you have, for revision, the first chapter was free. It was an hour and 5 minutes long. The second chapter was $2.59, and it was 45 minutes long. If you're going to give something for free, you've got to get at least the same length or quality and more. It's got to look better. So yes, to get it into people's hands, absolutely the free route, but you have to be careful because one, you got to have a game that will make them hungry for more. It's the supplementals, the add-ons, but it's got to be polished enough, and it's got to be, with episodic games, the reason why it could possibly work is because you're building on the story. So the story's got to be developed enough that it's going to make people interested in continuing on. There was a game on the PlayStation, or there was a series of games on the PlayStation. Oh shoot, was it 1 or 2? That was one of the old PlayStations. It was called Dot Hack. It was actually based off an anime.
That was the first one.
Okay. I have all 4. And actually, if you buy the regrade, they re-released it, and there is, actually no, that was Dot Hack GU. That was the follow-up. Dot Hack GU, I think, only came out with like 2 games or 3 games, but they actually added on something to kind of wrap it all up if you get the PC version. But that was like super loaded episodic games because they were games by themselves that were kind of sequels but truly kept the story going along. So it was one of the earlier examples of carrying your character over from one game to another where, now Mass Effect, of course, made it awesome until the ending of Mass Effect 3, many would say, and also the requirement of the online play, thanks EA. But, free is one way, or there a lot of tabletop creators may try to get like a weekly or monthly, kind of just like your Dungeons and Dragons group, and have those beta testers as the guinea pigs, and you do a development blog on YouTube, and you basically, for lack of a better word, you pour yourself out to social media over look at what new twist happened in this, and soon you too can experience this game type of thing. The guy I talked about earlier, Nürburgring Games, Craig Campbell, one of the big stumbling blocks for any project is you don't take into effect the financial requirements. There is a studio out there called Double Fine. There was a game called Double Fine Adventures, which got changed to Broken Age. Double Fine Adventures was kickstarted, made a shit ton of money, and they had all these stretch goals, and they were reaching them like rapid fire. And it turns out that the individual, this is my theory, is that the individual who actually understood how much it was going to cost for the work and time to add all these features was locked out of the room. Because what ended up happening was at the end of the Kickstarter project, Broken Age actually had to be broken into 2 pieces. And not only did that have to happen, but they had to also put Broken Age Chapter 1, or Part 1, onto Steam Early Access at the full price because they ran out of money to actually, they didn't even have a full beta by the time they ran through all the money they had Kickstarted, all that they had crowdfunded. Or if you know of the most infamous crowdfunding PC game to date is called Star Citizen. It's still pulling in money. It is still selling imaginary spaceships that may or may not make it into the game. I don't know. They had so much money that they actually created 4 satellite studios. Each studio was in charge of like solar systems and language and lore, and then they ran out of money because they had way too much people trying to do too much stuff. And funny fact was that I found out that I was one of those stooges that actually paid $125 when it first started, and I tried to play the game and found that at that point, many years after the start of the crowdfunding, what I could do was I could walk around in my space hangar and look at my ship, and that's it. And it's supposed to be this huge, massive online multiplayer game with infinite universes and tons of aliens, and they had linguistic people, and I don't know when that's ever going to come. It may never come. So keep
AI up to it. Don't work on it.
Oh, jeez. Well, then we're going to let's talk about AI is a whole different thing. So keeping things in scope, understanding how much it's going to take. There are so many, in the early Wild West days of Kickstarter, there are so many people who kickstarted projects and then ended up having to take the money and run. Or they did it on purpose. Or you could be the potato salad guy who literally did a Kickstarter because he wanted to make potato salad. The next thing you know, he made so much money that he ended up sending out to all of the people who kickstarted his project a cookbook of different ways to make potato salad because he felt so guilty that he got so much money just to make one thing of potato salad. Yeah, budgeting is huge. Even at later stages or early stages, just having an idea of just the time commitment that you have to do, and time commitment. That's one thing that you never truly understand until you're in the middle of it, and then you're like, holy shit.
I've been here for 10 years doing the same thing.
I started Alter Confusion back in 2007. It is now 2024. It has now been 17 years. And to that, for me, that's like, I don't know. I have had so many different versions of Alter Confusion at this point. I've like I said, I wanted to be a AAA title reviewer just like the big boys, and then I found out how dirty the big boys were. And then I wanted to be the next, there still is, a site out there called Giant Bomb. I wanted to be Giant Bomb, and I found out how corrupted they got. And so, I was doing webcomics. I was trying to play early on. I was trying to do 5 to 6 game reviews a month while holding down a 9-to-5 job, which, as well as writing a webcomic 2 to 3 times a week, is fucking nuts. You have to be really willing to roll with the punches, and don't be surprised if what you started with is not what you end with. There's a bunch of authors that you could talk to who wanted to write, the next great epic, and then they ended up finding out that they suck at writing humongous books, but they can actually turn out a shit ton of short stories that people are interested in, and they can box those bad boys up, and that's how they make their living. Also, you need to understand, you also have to make the decision of, is this going to be a passion project? Is this going to be something on the side, or are you trying to make this your meal ticket? Because that, oh buddy, that's a big one. And to be completely frank, right before COVID hit, I actually took a deep dive into my finances to see how much money I had spent on Alter Confusion since day one, and oh buddy, you got to be ready for that big red number. Because as the saying goes, you got to be willing to spend money to make money. It's not going to magically just one day Unless, like I said, you could have, the Midas touch. You could just go, I've got this idea, and you start, and then it's beautiful, it's perfect. But that's a 1 in a trillion thing. John Hartness had, he put it pretty well during his panel today at 3. He said, you gotta be extremely lucky. And the best way to be extremely lucky is to work extremely hard. Because the more you work, the harder you work, the more chance you have of being lucky. If you just let it sit there, or you let someone else do it, it's not gonna get to where you need to be. Now in my current iteration of Ultimate Confusion, I do a live Thursday night hangout, or Thursday show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. I have a Patreon. I have, actually the most money that I truly pull in is, I do a 24-hour game-a-thon every single year for Extra Life. I'm 12 years strong now, of raising at least $250 every single year. So I think overall those 12 years, I think I'm at $4,800. So there's my contribution to the world, is I've given money to the kids. Yeah. But I had something else. Actually, there is a box in that bag. It looks like a pencil box. Well, it is a pencil box. It would look like a pencil, but yes, no. I had some other stuff I wrote down, and I just remembered it. Advanced age, guys. Advanced age. If you have something I almost did it. If you have something out there that you want to get true opinions on, reviewers. It doesn't matter it does matter, but it doesn't matter when you're starting off how big the reviewer fan base or reader base is. You want to get it out there, because then that person could have a friend of someone, and then it just builds. So I can't tell you how many times I have gone to conventions where I tell them I want to help them. I want to review their game, or review their pencil and paper, or review their book, and they're like, well, I have no idea who you are, so no. Amazingly enough, the big reviewers that are doing, the AAA titles or the next bestseller, they don't give a crap about your book. They don't know who you are. They're not going to read it. So you start small. You got to be, yes, are there some people that are going to dick you over? Absolutely. Make sure you protect yourself. Go back and say, make sure you protect yourself. Make sure that there is a way to claim ownership. If there is any vagueness to that ownership, there is a chance that if your idea is phenomenal, say, hypothetically, you create an amazing, fast-paced, spell-slinging card game. And it does very well in the local market. It's not really broadcasted, but somebody at a convention talks it up on social media, and all of a sudden you have, say, I don't know, hypothetically, a company like Hasbro knocking on your door going, hey, we own Wizards of the West Coast, or Wizards of the Coast, wherever they're called now, and which owns Magic the Gathering, and we think that your card idea was actually something that we've been thinking about for a long time. And if you don't have that paper trail, they'll take you to court, and they will file extension after extension after extension until you can't pay your legal fees anymore, and you have to give up the right. And hypothetically, if that were to happen, they would basically allow you to sell the rest of your physical inventory, and then you were never allowed to touch that IP again. Hypothetically. I'm saying hypothetically just in case Hasbro is watching this, because I have a friend who that's exactly what happened to them. And I actually accidentally said the name of the game, but
Poor man's copyright. Have you heard of that?
yeah.
Okay.
The poor man's copyright. A lot of people will. You can form It's, at least in the state of Georgia, it's pretty easy to form an LLC.
Oh, even cheaper than that. The poor man's copyright I was referring to is where you take your intellectual property, like a hashed out line of it, everything that's in the game or whatever.
Yep.
Take it down to the post office, mail it to yourself.
Then there's a paper trail.
That is something that the U.S. government has to date and keep a record of.
Yep.
This went through the mail at this time.
Because it's
And then you have hey, this went through the mail then, and they can open it in court as a thing that actually happened. This is legal. And then they have no standing if you say then, I had it by this date, because that was the date postmarked on it.
And that's federally binding. Yeah. But if it's, the thing is, it gets a little, I guess technically I could just like print out all my stuff and then send it, if it's strictly digital. But, right, protect yourself. Make sure that you protect yourself. Make sure you have a paper trail. Holy crap. Now, that's not to say that you post everything that you do out there, because people will rip that shit off. There is a gentleman who lives, he has a shit ton of money as a result of literally just watching Shark Tank. And he sees the great ideas, and if there's a quick turnaround that can be done, he ships that idea off to China. He basically floods the market with gimmick, cheap imitations of whatever Shark Tank's doing, because once the Shark Tank thing goes through, the patent goes through, and then he all of a sudden, he no longer sells that, but he's already saturated the market with the knockoffs. And so a great example is a couple of years ago, there was the fidget cube. It was shown on Shark Tank, or a Shark Tank-like show, and the guy literally just mass-produced them over in China and sold them through his website. And then once the fidget cube got the American trademark, he stopped. But by that point, the product's been out for a year and a half, and everyone's got the cheapo version. So why would they buy this? So you also got to be careful about who you show it to. I guess then also don't go to Shark Tank. Make sure it's
Unless
not.
you already have the patent.
That's true. If you already have the patent, then yeah. But usually they're looking to finance it so they can get the patent. But
Speaking of which, do you know anything about getting a patent for like games of any sort? Is it possible? What's the process?
Do not have 5 interconnected rings,
yeah,
no matter what you do.
don't do that. Hell, there's a card game called The Legend of the Five Rings.
Well, it was based on Wizards of the Coast, because it was a D&D thing, and they had 5 rings in a pentagon shape that were interconnected. And the Olympics took them to court, sued them until they were worth nothing, and that's when Wizards picked up the rest of the stuff. And now if you look at any of the Legends of the Five Rings stuff, it'll have 5 individual rings that are not connected.
Yep.
Because that's the way that the Olympics had their thing, was 5 interconnected rings. It did not say what shape. So, yeah.
Yeah. It gets really murky when you think about patents and trademarks and all that stuff, because it really depends. I mean, when you go that route, your best bet is to find a lawyer, to be honest with you. When I started thinking about trying to protect myself with Alter Confusion, or trying to make Alter Confusion one thing and myself another, just in case I say something that pisses people off, like I have against a couple of companies. If technically they could go after Alter Confusion, but they can't go after me because I was in the role of Alter Confusion. I asked a lawyer, who happened to be my loving sister. Just in case. But yeah, I would. It really depends on the way that you want to protect yourself. I would highly recommend find someone in that type of copyright law, trademark law, contractual law if you're going to do some sort of contract, which is huge right now, contractual law, especially with AI, voice actors, and all that stuff, and video games, or certain video game studios in Georgia that will remain nameless that accidentally decided to add more lines to certain characters instead of recalling the original voice actor. They utilized AI, and since it wasn't at the time in the contract that they couldn't do it, they did it, but
And then they didn't have to pay them more.
did y'all, and speaking of AI, did y'all hear that there was a story about a Chinese professor who entered a sci-fi fantasy writing competition, and he utilized, I think it was ChatGPT, and he literally just, inputted all the information he wanted to, submitted it. He's a professor of journalism, so he just wanted to show what could happen. Ended up winning, the damn thing won second place in the entire competition. AI is dangerous, but at the same time, if used responsibly, or, we've already reached Skynet, we just don't know. But yeah, I would say go the legal route. Get someone, don't just get a random lawyer though. Make sure that they know this stuff.
Don't get the one on TV that says he'll be there for your crash.
Yeah. No ambulance chasers when you're dealing with patents, how about that? But, all right, I think we're actually reached the end of our panel. Holy cow. But if you do have, if you think of any questions or anything, you can always hit me up on my website, and I'll also give you one of my cards if you'd like, and you just email me directly. Look at that, I've got both of them. So I've got social media cards and personal cards if y'all want. But thank you for tuning in. Man, I've been doing way too many live broadcasts. I almost gave you my outro for my Thursday night show. I almost said thank you for tuning in to the Ultra Fusion Thursday Night Hangout for myself, Charlie, and my own co-host. It's been a pleasure getting to come our heads, our mouths, of course, our hearts. We'll be back next week for another show, which is my show. So, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for attending this panel. Wow.
Got you twice.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's time for me to go eat.